Legarithm on the call. Curacao, gambling and licenses? What's new? Today we will discuss the Curacao gambling license, specifically the changes that took place in 2025 following the adoption of the new National Gambling Act known as LOG. This is a big reform in the history of Curacao gambling, completely changing the old system. So let's take a closer look. For almost 30 years, Curacao operated under a 4-master license model, whereby master license holders could issue sub-license to gambling operators around the world. This system provided speed but had seriously drawbacks. Minimal oversights, uneven standards, a blurred reputation in the global gaming market. So, in response to international pressure and growing demand for better regulation, the Curacao government introduced LOG 2024. This reform introduced a new, more formalized structure, whereby each operator will now have its own individual license issued directly by Curacao Gambling Authority, as known as CGA. This means that there will no longer be master license holders. The operator is now at the center of the system and interacts directly with the government. What are the main changes? 2 types of licenses have been introduced. Gaming license for companies that directly organize or conduct gaming, including online casinos, poker, betting, and supplier license for suppliers of critical services or goods, such as software. The review process is divided in 2 phases: reliability check and compliance, and operational readiness assessment. In practice, obtaining a license can take about 4 or 6 months. The licensee may be temporary for 6 months with the possibility of extensions for 6 months. Clear criteria have been established for owners and managers, including clean reputation, transparent source of capital, MEL and KYC. Mandatory registration in the GoML system. In addition, one of the most important and interesting innovations is the local presence of the licensee. The regulator requires that a company must have a physical presence on the island. At least one manager who is a resident of Curacao for the 4 years from the date of entry into force of LOG. At least 3 key persons who are residents of Curacao from 2029. Office space with equipment for conducting business. Annual reporting and regular staff training such as responsible gaming, MEL, anti-fraud. You can read more about this requirement in the description below the video. How to obtain a license in 2025? The process has become more formalized, but remains attractive. To obtain a license, you need: firstly, register a company in Curacao. The applicant on whose behalf the application is submitted must be managed by at least one natural person who is a resident of Curacao or a legal entity established under Curacao law and managed by at least one natural person who is a resident of Curacao. Also, appointment of key persons such as CEO, CTO, CFO, compliance officer, provision of detailed information about owners, business plan, source of files, and source of funds. All of this is interesting, but the cost of the license is also important to us. So, the cost of proceeding application for both B2C and B2B licenses is about 5,000 euros, not including related expenses for each person listed as a UBO and company owners. What about annual expenses? Annual fee for B2C licensee are paid in 2 stages. The first invoice is paid pro rata for the year of license issuance and therefore annual by January 15 in 2 separate invoices: to the National Treasury its license fee and to the CGA its supervisory fee. The amount of these invoices is about 47,000 euros. What about B2B licensing? The initial annual fee is calculated in proportion to the period from the date of license issuance, and all following annual fees are paid in full by January 15, based on an invoice from CGA. The amount of these invoices is about 27,000 euros. Please note that all fees being non-refundable. If you are interested in whether you can operate with a Curacao license in a specific country, Please note that the scope of the Curacao license is quite broad. Many holders of this license operate in international markets. However, not all countries are accessible. There's restrictions imposed by the operators themselves or dictated by local law. It should be noted that holders of a Curacao gambling license are forbidden from operation on the island itself. So, the Curacao reform is not a legislative update. It's an attempt to bring the jurisdiction up to the level of giants such as Malta or the Island of Man. If the reputation of the license is more important to you and you want to cooperate with providers and enjoy trust in cooperation with payment system, then you should consider a Curacao license. But if you need a quick and affordable options to test the waters, Curacao may be a slightly more labor-intensive option right now, especially with the new rules in place. Therefore, you should use options such as Anjuan or Nevis gaming license. If you need help with these new requirements or have questions about Curacao license or compliance, don't hesitate to reach out to Legarithm. We are here to help you get started, grow, and succeed in the gaming industry. Subscribe and get notification on. See you soon!